The following film contains material that may be disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. As you watch the film, you need to know it's far, far worse than this film can portray. Most of the dogs are born into a world where they have to fight for their survival immediately. It was never meant to be this way. We made it this way. And now, a few are left to clean it up and try to fix it. Dogs freeze to death out here. Alberta has long and extremely cold winters, and in many communities, dogs live outside year-round. The building and donation of dog houses gives many dogs a fighting chance. Alberta's long, harsh winters are just one of the many challenges faced by the growing population of homeless dogs. The demand for the work of animal rescue organizations in the province has never been greater.
We're doing the Walls for Winter program in combination with the spay-neuter program. So anyone who needs a dog house, we provide a dog house, and we hope to spay-neuter their animals. That's kind of a list right now, but this is what we do. We'll do it probably throughout the whole winter, but today it's only, I think, 16 dog houses, but it's a start to the winter.
We were given access and permission to film a number of animal rescue organizations. The majority of the same organizations work with and for First Nation communities within Alberta. Footage filmed on First Nation communities was with permission and in the company of the animal rescue organizations. We caught up with Sylvia just as she arrived at Westlock Veterinary Center. Sylvia had picked up some puppies under the spay and neuter program. The puppies are to be returned to the owner once the procedures are complete. Sylvia had already dropped off an emaciated dog at SCAR's Athabasca intake facility. Sylvia also had puppies that were to be handed over to another animal rescue organization, Alberta Animal Rescue Crew Society, otherwise known as ARCS. On occasions when one rescue organization cannot take any more animals, another will step up and help out.
The spay-neuter return puppies, and there's 12 in the litter, and we have 3 left. And we've already done all the adults in the home, which I think was over 10. So I'm pretty excited. Only one more trip to the vet to do to get them all fixed. Hi. And then we have some more. Hi guys.
Having dropped the spay-neuter puppies off at the Westlock Veterinary Center, Sylvia drove to the Morinville Rescue Center to transfer the 10 puppies to John Evans, one of the volunteers who works with Second Chance Animal Rescue Society. John would then drive the puppies to Edmonton and hand over the puppies to the Alberta Animal Rescue Crew Society. At the time, we weren't aware, but this was likely one of the last animal intakes at the North Haven site. The following day, the Alberta Animal Rescue Crew Society took the decision to close animal intakes in Edmonton and close the facility in March. They are to focus on Calgary, that remains the base of their operations. Todd and Harold, two volunteers from Second Chance Animal Rescue Society, drove the 2 hours north from Morinville to the Calling Lake Dog Pound. They had been tasked to collect 3 dogs that had spent many months in the pound and bring them back to Morinville. The 3 dogs would then start the process of finding their forever homes. It was minus 26 degrees at Calling Lake, and every dog in the pound wanted out. For many of the dogs that end up at this pound, and at others, they've normally had a rough time. Once at the pound, there is no guarantee as to how long they will spend before a space opens up, as with these 3 dogs. The problem for many dogs in the pounds is there just isn't any space at animal rescue centers. The adoption and fostering numbers have dropped, and a backlog of dogs stuck in pounds increases daily. For this dog, it takes time and compassion from Todd and Harold before trust is built and a new start in life can begin.
I've got a great rapport with these guys.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Whatever.
Sorry, switching around you.
There we go.
Good boy, Kevin.
Hello. Yeah, there you go.
You're like, this ain't such a bad place, huh?
A few weeks after learning that the Alberta Animal Rescue Crew Society were closing the North Haven location, we received news on what would happen to the site. Parachutes for Pets is to be taking over the site in May, and Melissa David, the founder and executive director, traveled from Calgary to speak of their plans.
Parachutes for Pets is a charity that I founded just about 6 years ago in Calgary, Alberta. So Parachutes for Pets, we're not a rescue, so that's what makes us different. We're a little bit of a niche. We like to think of ourselves as kind of the last stop before a rescue. So we want to keep the family pet with their family. So what that means is we're always constantly evolving and pivoting to address gaps in society that are creating, barriers for pet owners. So we have a large pet food bank. The cost of living is high. We definitely saw during COVID our clients that, are on fixed incomes. Maybe they had a little bit of a side job to help them, afford pet food or whatnot. Those jobs were erased quite quickly. So we got out of COVID, and then we have hit inflation crisis and mental health crisis. So we offer a pet food bank, which is utilized by other organizations, utilized by our clients. We offer safekeeping, which is actually our most popular program right now, and that's directly due to the unhoused crisis in Alberta. So what that means is, our unhoused folks with pets, shelter is a barrier for them. There's very few pet-friendly shelters. So if they need to go, they don't want to separate from their pets, but if it's minus 40, they need to. If it's, they need to go to the hospital, they need to go to job interviews, they need to go to treatment. Their pet needs to go somewhere safe. So we offer a safekeeping program, and with that program, we have vet care, we have training, anything that pet needs to be able to go back to its owner and set them both up for success. So sometimes pets have not been out of encampments or have never been in houses. So we want to make sure that, if we can get them housing and working with our partnering agencies, we're setting them up to be able to go into that situation for success. Our unhoused clientele is a big focus right now, just simply because of the numbers we're seeing. And I always tell people, who you think is unhoused isn't just who's out there. It's nothing for us to be able to get a couple calls a day from seniors who are now living in their cars or families. So it is a huge crisis. There's a mental health crisis, but we're also seeing a rise in domestic violence. We're seeing a rise in all of our vulnerable populations needing help. And we're also starting to see, our middle class. We've had donors that started with us that are now clients. That's just where the world has gone. So, we're here to give a hand up, a paw up, and just whatever we can do to help keep that family pet with their family, because there's nowhere better that pet should be. Yeah, we're filling some gaps that, our municipal and provincial and even federal governments really should be taking a closer look at, simply because pets are a barrier to, getting better, but they're not a bad barrier. They're a lot of people's why. And our programming has become so successful over the past 6 years in Calgary that we often get calls from other organizations, other cities, other provinces, and even the United States asking, how do we set up here? Or can you give us some advice? Or, what does that look like? So we had been receiving multiple calls from Edmonton and area for a while now, especially safekeeping, especially our Angel team. And, it's tough out there to run a nonprofit right now. Donations are not what they used to be. And there's a lot of competition for it. And of course, we're only 6 years old as a charity. Our donors are usually the ones that can give us, an extra $20 a month. So it is a struggle. However, we couldn't say no. Edmonton has asked so much for us to come help that we just could not say no. So a few organizations up here have been struggling as of late. Unfortunately, ARCS is going to have to close. They're going to be moving everything to their Calgary rescue, just to kind of run all locations and all projects out of one location. So when we found out that ARCS was going to be moving out of here, I reached out to the ED of ARCS, Deanna. We've worked really well in Calgary. She's a massive inspiration to me. And I just said, hey, maybe I'm crazy, but what do you know what's going on with your building? Do you know you've been working in Edmonton? What do you think the need is? Do you think we would be welcome there? And Deanna was like, absolutely. So I've been able to work with her team, talk with her team, kind of learn a little bit more, start making connections up here with organizations that don't know who we are, and also just getting to the first responders and saying, hey, Edmonton, we're coming for you. So the building behind us is going to be occupied by us in May of this year, and Parachutes for Pets will officially have expanded to Edmonton. So we're going to offer the same outreach services here for people with pets, the same safekeeping, pet food bank, angel team, education programs, anything we can and anything we need to tweak to fill the gaps up here, we're ready and willing to do it.
Saving Grace Animal Society is located in Alex, Alberta. We met with Erin Deems, who is the executive director.
Unfortunately, right now, the problem is getting worse just because the rescues right now across our province are in all the same position of being over capacity. The adoptions just aren't there. We had this really nice time during COVID where everybody wanted a dog. So dogs were literally couldn't even keep them in care for 24 hours. Once they were posted for adoption, they were out the door the next day. That is just absolutely not the case anymore. It's quite the opposite. We're seeing puppies in shelter for, upwards of 3 to 4 weeks before they're finding their adoption, which is a really long time. And it's quite unfortunate for the animals because we can only take in what we have space for, and there's just not the space anymore. But unfortunately, the animals are still out there breeding, causing unwanted litters, and putting more pressure on the organizations. So we take a lot of our dogs in from First Nation communities. We do about 1,000 dog adoptions a year. Unfortunately, those numbers are getting lower. Adoptions are slowing down quite a bit, unfortunately, since COVID, but the calls are actually increasing. So it's a really stressful place to be in animal welfare when there's so many animals out there that need help. And unfortunately, we only have the capacity for care for so many. We mainly use a foster-based and shelter-based system. So our fosters foster throughout the quarantine period for puppies, and most of our matures stay in shelter. And the reason for that is we really want to get a good grasp on their personality, their behaviors, and get a good understanding of what kind of home they're looking for. So we bring them in, we put them through behavioral assessments, and then we put them up for adoption once they're medically cleared and past their quarantine. And then they are adopted out to the best fitting homes that we can find.
Kath Olcher invited us to her home in Edmonton. In her garage, she had a large whelping dog box that was being put to good use.
I am the co-founder and co-director of Zoe's. I started this with my friend Sasha. It was about 12 years ago, and we are fully nonprofit. We have nobody paid. We don't pay for any facilities. We do pay for things like food and veterinary care, but other than that, any money we raise goes directly into our animal programs. Our animal programs are wide-ranging, and I'll talk about that in a moment, but we started about 12 years ago because we knew there was a need for some supports for animals, particularly dogs, in the Edmonton area and the Alberta area. So we thought, okay, there's two of us. We're both really busy. I'm a busy stay-at-home mom with 5 kids, and my friend Sasha was a busy nursing student. So we thought we could do 2 or 3 animals at a time. That wouldn't be hard. So it really has taken us by surprise, literally, that we have up to 200 animals in care. 200 more, 200 plus animals in care, bearing in mind this is all through foster homes. There's no facilities. So it's an awful lot of animals, and it surprises us every day.
90%-ish of our dog population does come from First Nation communities. We work quite closely with them. And we work mainly in Musqueam, which is a 4-band community. So it's made up of Louisville, Ermineskin, Sampson, and Montana Reserve. So there's 4 different bands that make up the community of Musqueam. We have been out there for years and years. We've developed good relationships with the community and the band, as well as working in partnership with the Canadian Animal Task Force when they put on their clinics within the community. So just really being present in the community. We're kind of their first call. We're the most close to them, really, relatively. So we're out there quite a bit doing as much as we can. So in the First Nation community, they do have what we call a free roaming dog population. So what that does is, unfortunately, with the lack of spaying neutering in some of the communities, it just creates a lot of breeding and unwanted litters. And then those unwanted litters are creating more unwanted litters. So we're so thankful for organizations such as the Canadian Animal Task Force that does go in and do a clinic once a year for a weekend, and they can spay and neuter upwards of 500 animals, which is a huge impact on the community, and which is really helpful in regards to population control. One of the other things we offer as an organization is our spay and neuter assistance program, also known as the SNAP program. So we will offer for people to have their animals spayed and neutered at a minimal or no cost, just to try and create that population control so that we're not seeing packs of dogs packing up on people, because it is a lot different than it is in the cities or towns where people have collars on their dogs and they keep them in their yard, or they're always on leash walking. In the First Nation communities, it is beautiful because the animals are existing with the people without kind of the confines of your average city or town lifestyle where they have the fences and things like that. So it can be a really beautiful thing, but it also does pose some issues and risks as far as the dogs packing up as well as the overpopulation.
SCAR started in 2002 as a very small group with just myself and actually one of my best friends, Jack Pesic. We were actually located in Grassland, just north of Edmonton. We actually originally were called the Lac La Biche Humane Society, believe it or not. So we were in forestry together, and we kept seeing animals being dumped, literally just dumped. So we just thought it'd be a great idea to form this nonprofit group. We decided to change the name so that we weren't focused on just one area. So we decided to call it Second Chance Animal Rescue. And then we started to grow from there. We soon moved into the Athabasca area, and from there we built a facility on my private land, and which still exists today. That's one of the SCAR's intake facilities. It's quite large now, and then we eventually grew from there, and now we have the facility in Morinville here, so that we could I guess share the animals with everybody. And most of our adoptions actually come from the Edmonton area, whereas most of our dogs come from northern Alberta. And we do focus on northern Alberta, anything north of Edmonton. We're not limited to that, but that is our focus, is northern Alberta. There's not very many rescue groups up there. I don't actually think there's any rescue groups up there. There's actually very few vets. It's very it's a difficult area to work in just because of just limited resources. And that's why SCARS exists, is to focus on the communities that don't have the resources and the help. So that is what we are for. And of course, we run mostly on volunteers. So our volunteers are really, honestly, the heart of SCARS. They do almost everything. We do have some staff, but our volunteers is actually what runs the organization in general.
Ashley Bard is the co-founder and president of the Paws Up program. We met her at her home just outside of Edmonton.
Essentially, we work with 2 Indigenous communities currently, Alexis Nakota Sioux Nation and Paul Band First Nation, and we provide their animal welfare services. So we have a memorandum of understanding with Chief and Counsel for Alexis, and then Paul Band is a newer community for us. So we're just starting to kind of get to know that community, but Alexis is definitely where we spend most of our days. My firsthand experience with rescue previous to starting Paws Up program was I was on a board of directors with a different rescue organization, and they had an outreach program. So they did do intakes from the city and work within the city, but then they had this outreach program with the Indigenous community where, once every 3 weeks they went out and they would provide food pantry. And when they had donated spays and neuters, they would offer them to community members. So I really enjoyed being part of that program, but you could tell that once every 3 weeks wasn't really accomplishing anything. And it was just post-COVID. And so, the population was insane. There hadn't been any clinics. Yeah, it was just a lot. And I knew that the once every 3 week kind of attitude wasn't going to make any positive changes for the community. And so that's how Pause Up program came to be.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. There's so many dogs out there. I wouldn't have a slightest idea how many dogs there's, because a bunch of dogs come right where we live there too at night. Dogs are barking all over the place. When they hear a gunshot, oh.
For some, especially amongst First Nation communities, there are historical trust issues when it comes to the work of animal rescue organizations. Raymond Potts, an elder from the Alexis Nakota Sioux Nation, spoke about his son, Harley Potts, who was attacked by 3 dogs on April 29, 2018.
The people I know, they look after dogs. They register them and then whatever they do so they don't have puppies. But they still keep on bringing more on too. Different dogs, but that's how it is. Most of them, they don't watch them. Just let them go. Just let them go down the road wherever they can eat. I guess that's where they go. So, I don't know. The population is lots, I know that. Like I said here, these dogs are vicious too, pit bulls. They'll attack you. Even in your yard, they'll try to attack you. Come into your yard, you're trying to chase them away, they're trying to attack you. So what do you do with them? I'd like to see all those dogs gone from here. It was like that one time. People own 1 dog, maybe 2 the most. Not every house, 2. They use them for work. They didn't just make them sit around, lazy around. And they made them pack dogs for choppers. Like the horses, same as the horses. That's how they treated dogs. And they fed them. Most of the time, they made them go get their own food too. Dogs were good like that. Those days, they were working dogs. Now there's no working dogs here. They've killed a few people here already. Yeah, and 1 dog attacked my son. Just not too far there, the big dogs, I think the Malamutes or whatever the hell the dogs are, they just bit him all over his back. Lucky thing they didn't get him down. And as a result of that my son got sick from some kind of sickness from that dog, and he couldn't even move. He ended up in the hospital, just barely made it. But after that, it really bothered. His life changed completely. He wasn't the same person he was. He used to, walk on the road with dogs and stuff like that. He just stayed away from dogs. But that dog, like I was telling you, eventually my son got run over on the road. He was drugged with all kinds of drugs, pills. Otherwise, something was not working right in the brain here. And then he finally was walking back from the highway up there. I guess he got run over. He didn't enjoy life after the dog bit him. That's... And those people that said that was their dogs, we took them to court. Another person said that it was his dogs. The person we charged got away, and that was the owner of the dogs. And that's why we don't like these big dogs around here. Smaller dogs is all right. The bigger dogs, they're too dangerous. There is a solution, just get rid of them. That's all. Get them out of here. Like I said, they killed a lady on the road up there, up towards Glenavis there. And people saw that. They were driving back and forth. They were starting to eat that lady. And somebody saw this person, so they stopped. These dogs brought this lady down. They were eating her. That's... When these dogs get hungry, they'll kill anything to eat, even themselves.
Greater Edmonton Animal Rescue was at Alexis for, I think, 11 years, up until 2022, when we took over from them. So we took over November 22nd, and there was a community member who ended up dying as a result of being mauled. That was Christmas Day, I believe. That was really hard. That was hard for the community. That was hard for everybody involved. Because they can't ever place, who it was or what dogs it was. I believe 8 dogs got shot as a result. And I don't think that it was even ever confirmed for sure that it was those dogs. It just happened to be where the person was. It's sad. It's sad when things like that happen, because I've never been scared of a dog in the community. I've never been bit by a dog in the community. These are not aggressive dogs. They're, pack mentality. They can fight each other over food or in-heat female, but I've never had any dog be aggressive with me in the years that I've been going out there. So it's always hard when you hear that a person has been attacked.
No, you just drive around in the evening, you'll see them at night. They'll pop out someplace, like these people that do drugs. The same thing. And it makes me wonder if those dogs, I see these people digging around for something. The dog's been there, and those dogs are funny after that. They're meaner, and maybe they do drugs too, them dogs. Because those people can't find their drugs, looking for drugs. That's one thing I noticed too. Because if a dog knows you're doing drugs or drinking, they'll know you and they'll start barking at you.
I know that some community members have had issues where they've been attacked, and I'm not ever going to say that that is right. But I do know from firsthand experience working in the communities that sometimes it's the dogs defending themselves from things like this. And I find that very hard because the dogs automatically get blamed. And we've seen dogs get shot after somebody was hitting it with a stick or poking it or burning it. And the dog retaliates, and then the dog gets shot. Last week, 2 weeks ago, we had some kids that were bored, and they threw a litter of puppies against a wall. You're gonna have dogs that are gonna retaliate against that, like the mom of those puppies could have, and then she would have been shot. I think for the most part, people that get bit on the reserve are probably not being nice to the dogs. Not all, obviously, but I think that is probably 90% of the time what the issue is. And I hate that the dogs pay the price, because I do see the abuse that happens occasionally. There's abuse in the city with dogs all the time. This is not a community specific thing. I don't think any of this stuff is something that you can just tie to the Indigenous community. I think that they just get a really bad rap, and it's infuriating, honestly. And so, yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Second Chance Animal Rescue Society, SCARS, relies on calls from the public to alert them about animals in distress, whether owned or stray. They receive numerous calls of this nature daily. When a call comes in, SCARS activates its network of around 100 volunteers, known as the Doggy Railroad. One or more of the volunteers takes on the task of responding to the call, using one of the 3 vehicles owned by SCARS. These trips are often lengthy, as SCARS serves many remote communities. Transporting sick or injured animals can be especially challenging, as time is critical in such situations. Once the animal is located, whether a stray, an injured or ill dog, or a mother with puppies, the volunteer driver typically transports it directly to one of partner veterinarians. The animals receive necessary medical attention, after which they are placed either in SCARS facilities or foster homes, with a strong preference for fostering. Mothers with puppies and injured or ill dogs are particularly prioritized for foster care, as these homes provide a better environment for recovery compared to shelters. Foster families help nurse the animals back to health, offering them the care and attention they need. Newly rescued dogs are usually quarantined for 10 days to monitor for common diseases. Once healthy and rehabilitated, the dogs are listed for adoption, giving them a chance to find loving, permanent homes.
Parvo was really, really, really every rescue's worst nightmare, along with distemper. It's just a virus that attacks young puppies mostly. It attacks their intestines. They literally dehydrate and to death. It's quite awful. It can happen really quickly. It is treatable if you can catch it in time, usually, not always, but it happens quite often. It's very common and it's very contagious. It is in their feces and it can live in the environment for up to a year. It's very difficult to keep clean. It's a lot of gowning up. It's a lot of gloves. It's a lot of, disinfectant that we use quite often. So this room was built just for that purpose, especially just to keep them away from everybody else. And same with distemper, just not to share the same air, because distemper is airborne. So what we really need is about 10 more rooms like that. It's very difficult to house parvo and distemper, especially distemper because it's so contagious. Parvo's a little bit easier, but takes a long time to recover. So like we had parvo puppies when she arrived, but I had kept them in a different building. So she is now double vaccinated and ready to go.
So for Alexis specifically, and Paul Band truly is the same after being there now, like in the community now for, I guess, 6 months. Both communities are very similar. You would think that it's spay and neuter has a huge, impact on overpopulation issues. But the major issue that community members face is the barrier of accessing vet care, emergency vet care. It's so expensive, and essentially most rescues, it's surrender your animal, or we're not going to, do the emergency treatment needed. And, I've been to Alexis 296, I think, times in the last 2 years, and 94 times to Paul Band in the last 6 months. I'm there almost every day, sometimes to both communities in the same day. And it's never for anything, cheap. It's always going to be a dog got run over by a car, or, parvo. Parvo is a really expensive thing and happens a lot in the communities. So sick, ill, injured, they don't have access to the emergency vet care. So, there's lots of amazing things for spay neuter. There's the Canadian Animal Task Force. There's clinics you can put on. There's like the low income spay neuter program within the city. We get lots of our spays and neuters donated through UFC and Nate here in the city, which is great. So we, go out, pick them up, bring them into the city, get them spayed or neutered and return them. There's lots of options when it comes to spay and neuter. There's nothing when it comes to anything else. There's no resources for community members. And then so the animals either just die, get shot to be put out of their misery, or we go out and help them. And porcupine season, I think we were at like 60 something cases of porcupines so far over the summer going into the fall. It's insane, and it causes them a lot of pain and infection, and it's not right to let them sit like that. But I mean, somebody in the community took their dog to the vet, and they quoted them $5,000 to get their 3 dogs dequilled. I mean, I know that it doesn't cost that much, but depending on where they're from, those small little town vets, there's no regulated vet pricing, and people can charge whatever they want. I mean, who could afford that? So then the dogs would just stay quilled. And that's just not an acceptable route.
So a lot of our animals come from different areas. We do work very closely with several First Nations communities, which we have a really good working relationship with. Some of them have their own pounds, and we do take all their animals out of the pound for them. It's actually a very nice relationship. You get to know the people. Some of the communities we know quite well, so they know to call us when they need us, and we're happy to help. We do provide dog houses and spay neuters for anyone in the community that would like it. When you are part of that program, we do provide you with food too, so that we want to see this. We want to see it through. So if we're getting an animal fixed, or spayed or neutered, vaccinated, microchipped, all of that, we do like to make sure everybody's got food for the animals. Sometimes vet care too. It's not easy to always have access to vet care in these communities. It's just some of these communities are very remote, and vet care is expensive. Not everybody can afford vet care, so we do our best to help when we can. For people in these communities, because these dogs have a great life, other than it's like anywhere. Everybody needs help every so often, right? So and we have several communities we work with. There's so many. I wish we could do all of them, but we only can focus on a handful at a time, just because we want to make a difference in that community. Is really the overall goal for us, is to see a good, a really healthy population of dogs and cats in one particular community. It makes the community safer. It's safer for the kids. The dogs are happy. You have less fighting. You have less females at heat. You have, the population in general is much more controlled. We have found that it's just an overall better situation, and people seek help. They want it. They don't want to see their dogs get beat up. They don't want to see their dogs, hungry. It's a very good working relationship. We quite enjoy being out in these communities. We've developed some really good relationships, and we will continue to do that for as long as you're wanted or needed.
I'm Roberta Gambler, and this is my dog Chase. We live here in a trailer at my sister-in-law's yard, and I've had Chase since he was a month old. I've been with the program since he was neutered, like when he was ready to get fixed. So he's part Shepherd and Rottweiler, I believe it was, but majority of it's Shepherd. And he's a great dog. With the program, we're able to get food when we need. And Sylvia comes out periodically to check up and sees how the dogs are being cared for, and if they're not, then we try to do our best. We do have 2 other dogs here that are my sister-in-law's, Moonshine and Biggie. They as well, same thing. They're being cared for. Biggie's quite old, but we take care of them the best we can. Deworming, the shots, everything they need, they provide. And they do help quite a bit. If there's any injuries in any way, shape, or form along the community, we've had to call Sylvia and the Scars to get our dogs cared for. We used to have dogs up north when I lived at my sister's home, in fact, and they got injured quite severely. They came out and picked them up and got them fixed up, but unfortunately we weren't able to get them out
I'm sorry.
after, but yeah. He'll probably still eat that. Yep. He's a big baby.
I was like,
He's actually like my little four-legged friend.
do you want me to pick that up? I can move that.
Oh no, he'll eat that. Jace, he is a guard dog now. He's a guard dog for my place here. And he'll let us know if anybody's in the yard and things like that. Many years ago, when we had Rocco, he lived to be over 17 years old, and unfortunately last year we had to put him down.
I love Rocky.
Yeah, Rocco was such a loved character all around community. The dogs knew he was pretty much a boss of community. But yeah, they helped a lot with Rocco. They gave us the medication for his hip dysplasia and yeah, in general, telling me what kind of medication to get for him if I needed, and I did. And like I say, Rocco lived to be over 17. And we just had to put him down last year. It was too much. So this is my new little Rocco, I guess you could say, named Chase. Yeah.
But it could use a lot more rescue groups. So because there's a lot of dogs and cats out there right now, and this year particularly has been in a I would consider it a animal crisis actually, and I've been doing it for over 20 years, and I think this is the worst year I've ever seen. Whether it's post-COVID shortage of vets, the economy in general has been tough on everybody. Everybody's suffered that. So it's a difficult time right now. So when COVID was here, there was a lack of spay neuter returns. Okay, there was a lack of the program in general because you could not go and socialize. You could not, so you got behind there. So that's one thing that happened. It doesn't take long for things to get out of control. I mean, one female, 8 to 10 puppies per litter. That's difficult. So it's unless you're doing mass spay neuter returns, it's very, very difficult, which is why we like to focus on, a community at a time, just to make a difference. Yeah, foster homes are it's hard to find foster homes. It's a lot to ask somebody to bring a strange dog into their home with their children, with their other pets. These dogs have never been, some of these dogs have never, cats too, have never been in a house. They've never walked on the floor. They've never had a leash on. So it's not so simple as just, you're babysitting this well-trained dog. You are bringing in a dog that you have to work on. And you have to, teach it to walk on tile floors. You have to teach it to walk on a leash, and those are just a few of the problems. So finding foster homes and asking them to invest all this time and energy into dogs is not easy. I mean, people work, people have lives. It's difficult, which is why we have the facilities, and not every dog is suitable for a foster home either. Every dog is completely individual. Some do really well in foster homes, some don't. We have a sanctuary program. Some dogs are not adoptable, and that's for safety reasons. It doesn't make them bad dogs. It just means that they're not suitable for or safe to be in a family setting. So, the vet shortage has been an issue. When you have an injured animal and you can't get into your local vet, no fault of theirs, they're so busy. You're driving now 4 hours one way to an emergency clinic that costs you 10 times more than a regular clinic. So there's a bottleneck in so many different areas. It's and money. Money makes the world go round. I hate to say it, but it's not cheap to vet these animals. We certainly don't make money on any animal, despite what anyone thinks, because we certainly don't. After all the medical care that you put into these animals, and after doing the spay neuter and the vaccines and the microchips and the tattoos and the deworming and the defleeing and all the fun stuff, and that's just regular stuff. Never mind the broken legs and the Demodex and the upper respiratory and the thousand other things. So on average, we spend about $90,000 a month on vet care. So last year alone, I think it was $950,000 on vet care, and that's just vet care. That's not food. That's not staff. That's not all the other things that we need to make this possible. So yeah, our costs are quite substantial, and we work really, really hard, and we have some amazing supporters. I mean, you can't do it with the supporters, and honestly, if we didn't have them, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. So, I mean, we have a passion for what we do. It's a very difficult job. It's very stressful. It's very heartbreaking. It's very emotional. It's very physically draining. I mean, you name it. It's all of those things. If anyone thinks otherwise, they need to rescue for a while and understand it's difficult.
We tend to have to try and raise about $500,000 a year, I think, if not more, because that's to cover our vet costs for animals in-house and also for the programs that we run. We run a couple of programs. One is called SNR, which is Spay, Neuter, Return. So we offer that for anybody that we can afford to offer it to help keep their pets fixed, or get their pets fixed, sorry. And we also offer a helping hand, which is, especially in this economy, it is so tough in this economy for people. Rent is unbelievably high. Food, everything is unbelievably high. So if people who have a beloved animal are facing a veterinary cost that they cannot afford, we would rather help them so that they can keep their animal than that they would have to give up their animal, or worse, euthanize their pet. So those are just some of the programs that we run. We literally believed it would just be the two of us, and now we have up to 400 active volunteers, including all the foster homes. So yeah, it's been a challenge and a struggle, particularly since the COVID boom of puppies, which I remember thinking, bread, that's nice on Instagram. Bread is great on Instagram. Everybody bake bread. And then the first time I saw someone buy a puppy, I thought, oh no. And then it happened. We had the avalanche of people everywhere, not just here, everywhere, lose their marbles and try and get a puppy any way they could. That extended out, of course, to cats and to grown dogs, but mostly puppies. And we were terrified. We couldn't keep puppies in stock, which was not in stock, like puppies in stock, which was just bizarre. And people would skip us if they saw that our procedure involved 2 to 3 days worth of work to get a puppy or anything like that. The problem is that we were afraid of the thing that would happen when the market fell out of the puppy boom, and it did with a crash about 2 years ago in April. We went from 45 whole dogs in care to over 90 in the space of a week. And that wasn't just us. We all suffered so badly. The problems continued because those dogs that were adopted or bought that were female or male were not fixed. So they are reproductive and they do reproduce. Those animals that are being returned because people don't have time, and surprisingly, it's when those dogs are teenagers, which, just like any human animal, any breed, teenagers are a lot of work, and puppies are no different. So they would be returned to us with no training and no vetting.
It's all about spaying and neutering. It really is. Right now it feels like you're just a band-aid. You're just we work on this emergency basis, which is not okay. It's like, we took in 3 puppies yesterday. We took in a very sick Demodex puppy. We took in a dog with porcupine quills. We didn't have room for them, but those are the emergencies you deal with all the time. When really we should be focusing on spaying and neutering animals in any community, and educating the public in general on how important that is. Everybody thinks their dog is special. They need to have puppies. I would, when you say that, I mean, go rescue a litter of puppies that are dying of parvo. You know, go. It's you know, it's you think it's fun to have your dog pregnant. You know, watch them die trying to give birth. There's so spaying and neutering is your answer, but how do you do that? You know, we're lucky enough. Alberta has the Canadian Task Force, and they're absolutely amazing. But and they do go to communities, and they do you know, anywhere from 300 to 400 animals in a weekend. It's absolutely amazing. Just to go to those clinics all the time. I love them. But you know, you can only operate in the summertime in those clinics because of just the mass amount of animals you have to do. You can't, you know. So anyway, they're amazing, but that they have the right idea. That's what everybody should be doing. But in the meantime, you have all these animals that need spots. You have all these animals with vet care. I believe, you know, when it comes to the vets and, you know, vet techs, I believe they've increased the amount of seats in some of the schools now. Don't quote me on the numbers and stuff. I do know that they know that there's a shortage of vets, but you know, so I'm hoping in 10 years we have, you know, a lot more vets. Plus we have a hard time. The other thing that I've noticed personally is most vets don't want to work rural. They want to work in the cities. So it's hard to get vets up. You know, like my vet in Athabasca, I mean, there's just her right now, and that's hard on any person and anyone that has that amount of stress on them to, you know, work with all these animals and people all the time. And so she can't even find a vet to come work up there. So finding vets in rural Alberta in general is very difficult. I mean, no, I think the only thing I'd say is rescue is nothing like what people think it is. It's actually way worse. So it's actually, I almost want to say and I tell everybody this, it's not a job, it's a lifestyle, because this is not something that you can just turn on and off, which is why there's such, you know, so much burnout in rescue. But there's just so many animals. I wish people could understand the scope of the need for organizations like us, SPCAs. So supporting them is critical to saving all these animals. So many wonderful animals out there. They're not damaged. There's nothing wrong with them. People think that, you know, you can't train an old dog. It's you know, it's got all these issues. There's no more issues with them than dog that you bought from a breeder.